Before we talk about the dynamic language runtime, let's address the topic of dynamic languages. What does it mean to be dynamic? Computer science generally divides languages into one of two categories. We have static languages and we have dynamic languages. But one thing to keep in mind during this conversation is that the distinctions are often blurred and fuzzy because some languages, like C#, have features that fall into both categories. A dynamic language, generally speaking, is a language that will allow you to modify code and modify types at runtime. Dynamic languages like JavaScript, Ruby, and Python, they do not have a traditional compiler or a compilation phase, so they do not perform type checking until the program runs, if they perform type checking at all. Many dynamic languages automatically coerce and convert types at runtime to keep an application running. C#, on the other hand, is a static language. Even though we're going to talk about the dynamic features of C#, it is traditionally a static language because all of the common idioms and patterns for C# revolve around the language's static features. We have a compiler, we have static type checking at compile time, so the compiler will raise an error if we try to assign a string to an integer variable. Also in C#, I can define a class with a property of type string named firstName, and once I run the compiler, I'll be creating an assembly with this class definition, and every object I create using this class will have a property of type string named firstName. There's no way for me to change one of these objects to remove that property or add a new property without changing the definition in the source code and recompiling. In a dynamic language that uses classes like Ruby, I'd be able to change objects instantiated from the class definition. I could remove properties and methods or add properties and methods. In fact, most class-based dynamic languages will also let me change the definition of a class on the fly at runtime without recompiling, and then all new objects created from the class definition will have the changes I made dynamically. If this idea sounds dangerous to you, then you have to remember that everything in software development is about trade-offs. Every great feature will have a downside, and even dangerous features can be used in a proper manner to solve an otherwise difficult problem. So dynamic languages, because of their nature, they have a great deal of flexibility. Nothing is set in stone, which means you can manipulate and change your environment to solve problems in a powerful and expressive way. I hope to show you some of these advantages in this module.